Hi, welcome back to Heal Your Roots podcast. This is Kira Yakov Plashansky. I'm so excited for today's guest, Mari Kharroubi. She is a pregnancy coach, speech pathologist, and working in functional medicine, helping moms and children.
The stress that was happening in my job, and me burning the candle at both ends, ended up making me choose between my career and my health because my immune system was so taxed that it started to attack my liver.
Mari, thank you so much for being a guest today.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. This is a true honor.
Absolutely. I'm really excited for this. Mari and I met actually in a mommy group. So I recently had a baby 4 months ago. When this podcast episode comes out, it may be longer than that. But we met at this local mommy group, and I just fell in love with all the information you were sharing and how much knowledge you had on this topic. So I'm really glad that, you're a guest today. I'm so excited for everyone to hear all the information that you have.
I am excited to share. This is something that I'm very passionate about.
Awesome. So, Mari, can you kind of share with us a little bit of your backstory? How did you get into speech pathology or become a pregnancy coach and functional medicine? This is a lot of big stuff that you have here.
Yeah, so I became an SLP or speech language pathologist back in 2007. And what drew me to the field was my own learning disabilities as a child and the challenges that it created in school and in my life. I had these challenges actually eroded my self-confidence and really made me feel like an outsider in social and academic settings. Because my learning disabilities that I had went undiagnosed for so long. And I went through a lot of bullying in school at when I was younger, and I never understood like why am I so different from other kids? Like why does it take me longer to understand the information? How is it that children, other students can hear it once and they have it and they don't have to study for as long as I do? And, all of that really impacted, me. And um, I just never want other children to go through what I went through. So I started to seek ways of how can I help turn this around for other children, and that's how I came upon the communications program for speech and language pathology. And I also realized that I wanted to do pediatric speech, because our field is very broad. So I wanted to just hone in on, children from birth to elementary school. And so when I got into school, I actually realized through the knowledge that I was learning that I had an auditory processing disorder. And it was like a light bulb went off, like, oh my goodness, this is the reason why I'm having so many challenges. And that further inspired me.
I think it's really interesting that, I think a lot of us go into particular fields because of our personal experiences and how, we were treated or the things that we went through and finding ways to help ourselves that we end up helping other people. So I think it's great that, through that adversity that you went through, you're able to now create a career and be in a field where you're helping other children that may have gone through something very similar.
Yeah, so now as a speech language pathologist, like I treat kids from the ages of birth to 6 years old who have all different types of speech and language disorders, from which include speech sound errors, nonverbal children, language delays, children who have problems with like reading and writing, which is considered literacy. And I also see a lot of children in my practice with neurodevelopmental delays, such as autism and ADD and hyperactivity, apraxia of speech, But going through this journey as a speech pathologist, I started to be, at first I was excited because I was like, oh, I'm changing, I'm going to change the lives of these children. But
Yeah.
then I started to become disillusioned because I was like, man, like there's children that are, obviously that make progress, but then you have these
Mm-hmm.
children that you see on people's caseloads for years and are hardly making any progress. And I started to wonder, like, why? Like, if this,
Yeah.
if speech and language pathologists are diagnosing and evaluating and treating kids, and like this is like the the root of what's supposed to help these children, and I'm not seeing it, why is it
Yeah.
happening? And then I also started to think, like, what's going on? Like, how about, like, I started seeing like the difference in like birth order. So like
Really.
the first child versus, the second or the last child in someone's family. And why is it that the first child came out, with normal milestones, normal language acquisition, but then like the
Mm-hmm.
second or the third child in that family had uh, more language impediments or, more health issues.
Yeah.
So I started to realize like that I was just kind of treating signs and symptoms and not really getting to the root cause or the why of these symptoms. And so then I also started to become um, saddened for these parents who are like, you know, I don't want to say losing hope, but they're just like so anxious and overwhelmed and like, what's wrong with my child? Like, why isn't my child progressing? Why, especially a lot of times, like with children who are nonverbal, that's every
Yeah.
parent's like dream is to hear them say, mommy, like their first words, mommy, daddy, I love you, and,
Yeah.
here, like I was like, okay, well, maybe I'm not using the right techniques, so like now I would start digging into more research and I would start learning all of the therapy techniques under the sun. And yes, that works for some children, but for others, it didn't. And,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to like children with autism, I start seeing parents, they're paying so much money for ABA services because like that's like the gold standard of therapy for children with autism.
Yeah.
And you don't, and some, it works for some, but for others, like there's so much money being spent and there's not a lot of progress being made. So
Yeah.
again, like what it brought me back to, why? Why is this happening?
Is that how you found yourself going into functional medicine?
No, it's not. Well, I went into functional medicine due to my own health issues. So, um, I was only one of four bilingual pediatric speech language pathologists in my area. And
Okay.
that led to a very heavy caseload because so many children needed services. And I wanted, I have a very helping, mothering nature. Like I want to go and heal the world and heal everybody. And so, I mean, at one point, I think when I was working in the school district, I had like 164 kids on my caseload.
Wow.
And, so then I got out of that because I was like, whoa, like burnout was huge. I already had a lot of, my own health issues growing up. And, my job was actually exasperating that. So I thought, well, I'll work for an agency and maybe this will be
Mm-hmm.
better. But I still ran a very high caseload. And now instead of being in one place, I was actually traveling. And, so now I'm in and out of the, inclement weather, hot, cold, because I lived in New York. So we
Mm.
have the up and downs of, hot and cold and rainy and snowing, and in and out, between a warm car, cold outside, and then a warm building. And then you add in that children, are come with a lot of germs. So I was getting very sick, and that just added to the health issues that I had already had since I was a child. Growing up,
Okay.
I had a very weakened immune system since birth. Had to take a lot of antibiotics, um, and lived in an environment that wasn't always conducive to the nervous system. There was a lot of yelling all the time. And so I grew up a very nervous and anxious child, which also impacts your nervous system and your immune system. And
Absolutely.
so I ended up, due to a lot of those things, I ended up with a lot of health issues. And then my job came along and added to those health issues. And I ended up having Bell's palsy, and they thought I had biliary cancer. I had fibromyalgia. The list goes on. And the stress that was happening in my job, and me burning the candle at both ends, ended up making me choose between my career and my health, because my immune system was so taxed that it started to attack my liver. And so the doctors basically said, like, if you don't take a break, then you may not be here to like continue to do your job. And along with that, they also told me that my future for having children looked very bleak, because if I were to have a child, it would probably take the life of my child or my own life, because my
Yeah.
body, I had a fragile constitution, a fragile body. So my system just wouldn't be able to handle it. So that is what brought me to functional medicine. I took a step back from my career, and I knew I was newly married and knew that I wanted to have a family. And so I started dedicating my life to learning about functional medicine. And I learned about genetics and how do they impact your health. And a lot of it was geared to, my motivation was geared to, because I wanted to have a child. So like, how does maternal
Yeah.
health, impact pregnancy? And like, I was like, I'm
Yeah.
not going to let, some doctors tell me, that I can't, and not going to be able to do this. I think that, I think everybody deserves the chance to have a child. And I think that there's an ability to do it. And a lot of times functional medicine, they don't look at the root causes of, or not functional medicine, did I say conventional medicine is what I meant? Conventional medicine doesn't,
Now, can you?
conventional medicine
Yeah, you
doesn't,
can repeat. Sorry. Go
that's
ahead.
okay. The conventional medicine doesn't always look at the root causes. They look at the signs and the symptoms of disease, and they just say, oh, well, here's some birth control pills, or here's some antibiotics, or if they don't know what it is, then they chalk it up to it's in your head, or,
Yeah.
they just don't really give you specific reasons. And once they can't, use pharmaceuticals as a way to heal you, then they're just kind of like, they don't know what to do. And that's kind of where I
Yeah.
was in my health. So as I started to say before, I started to learn about like genes and how your environment impacts your genes, and like how environment impacts like maternal health. I learned about environmental toxins, chemicals, nutrition, because of my
Yeah.
gallstones and because they thought I had biliary cancer and through all the surgeries that I had for that, their one of their recommendations was to go on a low fat diet. And it was pretty much one of the worst recommendations they could have given, because one of the major reasons people end up with gallstones is because they're not eating enough fat in their diet. And fat for women, especially, is a huge, huge way of making hormones. And not only that, fat also, you need fat like in order for your gallbladder to work properly. So, which is another reason why I was creating more gallstones. I wasn't ingesting enough fat. So I learned about nutrition. Long way to say that I learned about nutrition, and started to learn about traumas and how traumas affected me. And that's what actually drew me to functional medicine. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, this is amazing. I implemented all these things, and, I ended up, getting pregnant and having one of the healthiest pregnancies as a quote unquote geriatric pregnant mom.
Don't you love that term?
And my midwives were constantly in awe because, number one, of my age, at the time I was 30, I think I was 38. When I got pregnant, I was 39 when I actually had my daughter. And I would go in and they'd always be like, where's the edema? Like I never had the edema, and I never had like a lot of the pregnancy, what they call normal pregnancy symptoms, like the morning sickness and the gaining of a lot of weight and the edema and the constant need to go to the bathroom and just all of these pregnancy symptoms. And they're like, you're a breath of fresh air. Like, you're an anomaly. Like, what are you doing? Like, this is amazing. Yeah. And it was just like all of these things that I have learned and implemented. And, but then, so it made me very passionate about, maternal health and preconception and how important preconception is. Most women and most parents, most people don't even realize the importance of preconception. Like, people don't start to think about like their health and their nutrition and all of these things until they become pregnant. And, one of the things that is actually wildly known, is that we pass on our DNA to our children. But what they don't realize is that we also pass on our cellular health. And, cellular health is at the forefront of all disease, of all chronic health issues. And it's especially at the forefront of neurodevelopmental disorders. And so this is where I started making the connection, with like speech and language. I'm like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I'm like, here's the root cause. Here's the missing link that I've always had in this gut feeling of mine, like, of why some children were like advancing and some children weren't. And it's, because of all of these things that I talked about, the nutrition and the toxins and the chemicals and the environment and your genes, like all of these things impact your cells. And, where does a baby start from? It starts as a cell. And so one of the things that, we learn in functional medicine is the levels of physiology, which is we start as a cell, that cell proliferates or it divides, and then it turns into your tissues. And then those tissues turn into your organs. And then those organs turn into organ systems. And I was like, oh, wow. Like, this is where cellular health comes in at the level of a cell, when like when a baby is just becoming and making all of these organs and organ systems. And
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my gosh, in utero, the biggest thing that's developing is your nervous system, your neurological system, and your brain.
Agreed.
And so through my pregnancy and realizing this, I became really, really passionate. And when my own midwives are telling me, like, I don't understand what's going on here, and like they prescribe things that are actually hindering cellular health, I was like, I need to become a pregnancy coach. More moms need to like be empowered with this knowledge, because I mean, how sad is that there's so many moms that are going through pregnancy unhappy, and they can't wait for it to be over. And it's pregnancy, the ability to even be able to be pregnant is such a beautiful blessing. And to have it taken away with these symptoms that are in conventional thinking made to be normal, that are really not normal, I was like, I have to change this. Like, and so that's what drove me to becoming a pregnancy coach, and then really starting to look into like functional medicine, because I was able to heal myself. And I was like, I know if I can heal myself, I can also help moms heal their own bodies prior to conceiving, and then also lead them through a healthy pregnancy, which leads to healthy neurodevelopment, which leads to healthy children. Yeah.
That's really incredible. I mean, the fact that you were able to learn all of this information, heal yourself, right? Like, I hear this so much, especially in our mom groups, like how women are constantly going to doctors and they just aren't getting the right answer, or it's not working, it's not helping, things are getting worse. And they kind of just take matters into their own hand and do the research and figure things out and listen to their body and find ways to heal their body. And now you're helping all of these women through this process. And it's incredible, because I remember before I got pregnant, or was trying to get pregnant, I was like, okay, I should prepare, right? Like, I feel like I should prepare in some way. I don't really know how, but I should like go see all my doctors and do all these things. But I didn't actually know what I was supposed to be doing or how I should be preparing. Or like, I heard that like I should go to the dentist. There's a lot happening with my teeth. I went to all these different doctors, and like, thankfully I did, my thyroid, everything. Like, I figured these things out with blood work, but I don't think a lot of people know how to prepare their bodies. I think maybe the common things are like you stop drinking or smoking or doing drugs, right? Like that kind of thing. But even that's like, oh, once you find out you're pregnant, you stop. But are there certain things that you can kind of let our listeners know that are thinking about, conceiving, how they can prepare their bodies or their minds in preparation for trying to get pregnant, that they may not know now?
Oh, wow. It's such a big topic. So I'll just like kind of give little tidbits. But I mean, the first, a lot of people, that's the big thing that actually irks me too, like with the health industry right now is, they're always leading people to like the sexy, shiny, newest supplement or lab test or newest, sexiest protocol that they are like, oh, this is like the end all be all. But a lot of people forget about the foundation of health, and that's, your diets, so nutrition, your lifestyle, because you're never you're never going to heal if you don't have a healthy lifestyle. So diet, lifestyle, stress, that's another one. Stress is a very huge thing. I mean, it impacts you in so many whether it be good or bad stress. It could be, just stress of, going to a birthday party, which should be fun, but it's like, that's still stressful. You're around lots of people, lots of energy. There's just a lot going
Mm-hmm.
on, but it could also be, um, everyday, stress from work and life balance type things. So really getting a hold of stress. Another key one is like emotional trauma. Um, that one actually was a huge one for me, emotional trauma. I never realized this, but I would get myself better and I'd be up here in my health. And then I would, so I talked about like stress. You would think about like going on a vacation, and that's like not supposed to be stressful, and it's supposed to be like fun and things like that. But
Sure.
for me, it was like the exact opposite. Like I'd go on a vacation and I'd be up here, and then I would all of a sudden like take 10 steps back in my health. And I'm like, I don't
Mm-hmm.
understand this. Like, I'm eating a nutrient dense diet. So I'm getting all the vitamins and nutrients and minerals that I needed. I've worked on my stress levels. I opened up my own practice, so I stopped working in an agency. I'm able to like, I have more ability to regulate my schedule. I don't have somebody telling me that I have to take 100 kids. I can only take so many. And so that helped a lot with my stress levels. And it wasn't until the emotional trauma part that I was like, oh, I started seeing it was a health coach, and
Mm-hmm.
he dealt a lot with emotional trauma. I started to realize that my trauma stemmed all the way back from in utero. Who knew about that? Nobody talks about it.
Nobody.
Nobody.
Nobody. Yeah.
And at first
Yeah.
I was like, oh gosh, this guy's kind of, I don't know. He's kind of going somewhere where I'm not kind of understanding this. But my husband was like, what do you have to lose? I mean, I had already spent thousands of dollars on functional medicine people, functional medicine doctors and all sorts of supplements up the wazoo. And I'm like, so, and changed my diet and changed every chemical that, I can possibly control in my environment. So
Yeah.
what is it? What do I have to lose? So I started doing therapy with this coach, and it led me to finding that in utero, my mom faced a lot of emotional trauma, and all that emotional trauma and all that stress in your pregnancies, they raise your hormones. And so that impacts your baby. And so my nervous system was dysregulated from birth, which is why I had so many health issues, right from birth. And so like, that is one of the first things when I work with my clients now, for pregnancy coaching, and with my speech clients, when my parents come to me and say, hey, like, can we work on the root cause, the functional part of speech and language? That's one of
Yeah.
the first things that I ask my parents, like, what's going on? Like, what went on in your pregnancy, and what happened prior to conceiving? Like, did you have a
Mm-hmm.
lot of emotional traumas, like with your parents, with family, with
Yeah.
friends? Because this all impacts your cells, and in turn impacts your health. So once
Yeah.
I was able to figure that out and go through the healing of the things that my mom, like her traumas that affected me, and I was able to heal that and then heal my own emotional traumas that came from all of that. I was like, I got off all my supplements. I only had to do like my basics, like my vitamins and amino acids, and continue with my, like obviously the things that your body doesn't make on a daily basis. So, you have some uh, amino acids and things like that, and some nutrients that you can't just get from food. You have to supplement them. And I was like, whoa, this is amazing. I went from spending like $2,000 to $3,000, or I should say my husband, who's spending $2,000 to $3,000 on supplements, to now barely having to be on anything. So emotional trauma, and exercise is another important one too. So like just looking at your basics, your foundation, and like getting your foundation in order, it will take you a long way. Another one that's important for preconception, but it's actually, when I talk about all of these things, all of them are actually important for all stages of pregnancy, whether it's preconception, during pregnancy, and postpartum. So nutrition, trauma, stress, exercise, all of these things all impact all of these stages, but in a different way.
Sure.
Hydration. Hydration is so important. Your brain needs hydration. Your cells, all the cells in all of your organs and all of your bodies need hydration. A lot of times it's as simple as that. Some people just come in and all they need to do is hydrate more. And they're like, oh my gosh, like my brain fog went away. Like my energy went up. Like I don't feel as lethargic. Like, so hydration is important. But what people don't realize with hydration is that it can't be just plain water. People are like, I have clients that come to me and they're like, but Mari, I'm drinking, half my body weight in water. Like, in ounces, I should say. Half my body weight in ounces in water. But I'm still, I don't feel like I still feel dehydrated. Like I don't understand, or they feel like it's just like they're drinking it and then they're just like going to the bathroom is coming right out of them. Yeah. And that is because of a lack of minerals. So I always suggest that, if you're going to drink water, always have, like a quarter teaspoon of Himalayan or Celtic salt, because that's a natural mineral for us. And I also, we're so mineral depleted. And not even to say, like, for pregnancy, people don't realize that pregnancy is a huge mineral depleting state. We lose, as a woman, we lose 10 to 20% of our minerals in one pregnancy. And guess what? You don't get those back. So each recurrent pregnancy, now you're starting off with 10 to 20% minerals less. And now that baby, if you're going into another pregnancy, is taking another 10 to 20% of your minerals.
Wow.
So, and minerals are huge for everything, for your cellular health in general. But I mean, for your brain development, your neurological development, if you don't have minerals, like it causes a lot of damage in your body. And
I had no idea.
Oh yeah. So, I mean, it's a critical thing that we need to be implementing in our lives, in our daily lives.
Are there other minerals, Mari, that for listeners to hear, other minerals that will help? I mean, this sounds like in general, not even just pregnancy, but it sounds like pregnancy, our babies are taking this from us because they need all our nutrients. Like we are giving life, literally. So, I mean, that's crazy. I had no idea that it's depleting 10 to 20% each pregnancy. So it's just continuously going down. And if we have no idea that we even need them to begin with, I mean, we're just at a constant state of lacking.
Yes. Our bodies are a constant state of not only lacking minerals, but lacking nutrients in general, because people's lifestyle and diet, like we're living in a society now that it's so fast paced that a lot of people are just living on processed foods. They're not even getting in like the nutrients from our fruits and our vegetables and our real like meats and organ meats, But back to what you were saying about like the minerals, what I would recommend, is a great brand is Quinton, Quinton Isotonic Minerals. They're amazing. They're minerals that come from the ocean, from our seawater. Um, so that's a great one. It tends to be a little pricey, so a lot of times people are like, "Oh yeah, I want to get on that," and then they see the price and they kind of like, "Ooh." But I will tell you, like, they are they're one of the best out there for remineralizing your
Hmm.
body, and they work the best. Now, obviously, not everybody can afford to do these things. So the next best thing, um, there's a company called Trace Minerals. You can get it on Amazon, or you can go right through Trace Minerals Company, and it comes in like a blue bottle, and that has your magnesium and your potassium in there. It has your lithium in there, because people don't realize that we are lacking in lithium because our soils are depleted of it, and our water is depleted of lithium. So that's another good mineral. And then if you don't do that, then the salt is like the next best thing
Himalayan
that you
salt.
can do. Either Himalayan salt or Celtic salt um, is are good ones. I mean, but with everything, like there's, people are saying, oh, it's high in heavy metals and all this stuff. But with everything, I always say follow 80/20, because with everything, like if you're going to be afraid, oh my gosh, now they're saying that this is not good, but you're taking it and it actually makes you feel well, then, like you can't always like be afraid of like, just be afraid of like what all the noise out there is, being said. Um, Crucial 4 is another great mineral that you can use. It's a salt product, and it's really good, but it's also a little bit pricey, but it's actually one of the best. I would actually recommend that over Himalayan or Celtic salt if possible.
And so, is this something to do for women who are pregnant, like during the whole process, after, as well to help with postpartum, just having that increase of minerals again? Because, after postpartum, all your hormones are all over the
They
place,
sure are.
everything is depleted again. Are there certain things that you help with women for postpartum as well to help, like, just them feel better, get back into like feeling in their body because it's such a huge shift and transition from before.
Yeah, so postpartum is a huge shift, and one of the major reasons for that is because it is the only time that we ever experience in our human life the biggest plummet in our hormones, progesterone and estrogen.
Mm.
And um, nutrition again is like something that if you go into if you go into pregnancy already eating a nutrient dense diet, which I'll go over what that actually means, and you are, using your minerals inside of your water, or taking the Quinton isotonic minerals. The other thing too is electrolytes. There's a lot of electrolytes that can be put in your water. Seeking Health has a great electrolyte. Um, but nutrient, yeah. So a lot of eating properly. So eating meats, eating organ meats. A lot of people kind of balk at that, like when you tell them to eat, organ meats, but they're actually really organ meats are really high in like iron, and they're high in
Yeah.
zinc, and they're uh, they're high in amino acids as well. And then the other
Hmm.
thing is like lots of fruits and vegetables, like cruciferous vegetables, especially during well, I would say throughout the pregnancy and before, but specifically postpartum, because um, cruciferous vegetables actually help with detoxifying bad estrogens, and they also help with liver detoxification. So it's really important. And then fruits and vegetables, um, they're very important for like their vitamin C and all of their antioxidants and bioflavonoids. And then
Hmm.
healthy fats. And so foods such as butter and ghee and tallow and olive oil and avocados, they're all super powerhouses for the formation of the brain and to support like adequate hormone production. As I said earlier, many women don't know that they actually need fat for healthy hormones, and
Yeah.
that's very crucial prior to pregnancy. To get pregnant, it's very important during pregnancy for the brain development, and it's also very important for postpartum. It helps with postpartum depression and
True.
anxiety and all of these things that happen after our hormones drop. Um, Eggs is another great nutrient. It's a great source of choline. Very important for the neurodevelopment of your baby. And it's also very important for moms during postpartum. It also helps with brain fog, and it helps with breast milk flowing through the ducts easier. A lot of women get mastitis because they don't have adequate production of choline in their system. So eggs is a great source of that. Now, um, if if people cannot get their enough choline from eggs, then I suggest supplementing with phosphatidylcholine. Um, it's I actually had to supplement with that through my entire pregnancy, and it helped me a lot. It helped my brain fog a lot. I went from not being able to remember day to day, items such as a fork or the refrigerator. Um, I was having really hard time putting sentences together. So phosphatidylcholine was amazing. Another great food is eating shellfish and or seaweed. It's a great source of iodine, and research studies have shown that eating enough iodine actually increases the intelligence of your baby, but it also helps prevent postpartum depression.
Interesting.
So, and a lot of
Iodine.
people, yes, iodine, but natural food sourced iodine. Um, Sardines and oily fish are a part of the healthy fats as well. A lot of people don't realize that sardines can contain large amounts of calcium, and women are growing a baby, and so they need, that baby's pulling their calcium stores from their bones and from their teeth, which is why a lot of women end up with cavities or weak bones during pregnancy. And it's also a huge reason why our children are having a lot of cavities from a young age. They're not getting enough of calcium, and a lot of times people think calcium has to come from dairy,
Yeah.
and they don't realize that you can actually get it from your sardines, and you
Good
can
to know. I
also
had no clue.
yeah. So, and then like your oily fishes are really good for your fats as well. So like not only is sardine an oily fish, but your mackerels and your uh I'm drawing a blank. Oh, salmon, sorry.
Salmon.
Salmon is a great one. And we already talked about fruits. They provide vitamin C. They, for the bioflavonoids and the antioxidants, which actually increase your immune system. And a lot of people, here's a good one too for postpartum. A lot of women don't realize that they're lacking vitamin C, so they're losing a lot of hair, and vitamin C
True.
actually produces collagen.
Interesting.
So, one of if you can't get it in your fruits, you can take a natural whole food vitamin, which is called camu. It's an actual fruit. It's camu, and that has one of the highest forms of vitamin C. So I always suggest women take camu. And not only that, it also helps with iron
Mhm.
absorption.
Okay.
Um, and then the last one is fermented foods. So foods like sauerkraut, kefir, kimchi, all these fruits, I mean, sorry, not fruits, fermented foods actually improve your microbiome. And, you know, women don't realize that we're actually passing on our microbiome to our children. So that's why we're seeing like a lot of eczema and skin issues in children, um, because, or parasites or infections are coming from mama,
Yeah.
because they're not taking care of their gut, and their microbiome prior to getting pregnant. So those are all in a gist. I mean, we could go into like all of the vitamins and the minerals that are inside of all of these foods, but a gist of what a nutrient dense diet would look like.
Sure. So this is great information. I wish I knew you and had all of this before I was pregnant because I was really trying to prepare my body ahead of time. And it's hard to know what to eat and how it's going to impact you, how it's going to impact your baby, right? Like creating a healthy womb and body for your baby to grow in is so important, but there's just not that much information. I mean, there's information out there, but it's not commonly known. It's not
Yeah.
told, right? Like you have to go dig and do your own searching. And
Yes.
it's tough to do that when you're adulting and living life and, having motion sickness, not motion sickness, morning sickness or all day sickness, which I had, right? So being able to have resources and people like yourself who have done this research, have this knowledge, and want to help other people through this process is incredible and very beneficial for so many people out there who are trying to get pregnant, who are pregnant, and who just had a baby. So I'm sorry that the experiences you've had throughout your life, and I'm glad that they led you in a place where you are now giving back and helping so many other people not have to go through that.
Yeah, it's a I don't know. For me, I feel like everything that I went through was actually a gift and a blessing
Really?
because it led me to what I am doing and what I am super passionate about, which is, you know, um, maternal health and fetal neural development.
And so I know we're out of time and we can definitely have you back because I think there's so much more information to be shared. Is
Yes.
there a way that are you seeing clients right now? Like, how can people work with you if they want to do pregnancy coaching or anything like that?
They can email me, and we can talk about one-on-one coaching or doing. We're also working on a concierge program, so being able to have me as your coach from preconception all the way through elementary age.
Awesome. So we'll definitely put that in the show notes, have let everybody know where they can reach out to you so they can work with you. Mari, thank you so much for being a guest today. This was awesome. If the listeners like the episode, please like, share, and subscribe. But otherwise, thanks so much for being with us, and that's a wrap.
Thank you so much.